but let's go first to Wellington, where we're joined by our business editor, Giles Beckford, who is looking at business for us this week. Hi, Giles. Nice to have you back. The latest figures today suggest the record inflow of immigrants may be levelling out.
Possibly so. These things come in waves, as you can well imagine, John. We had 72,000 was the latest official measure that was out this morning. That's permanent migrants, that's people staying here 12 months or more. But there are just a few signs that perhaps this may be the plateau of it, the top of it, for the cycle at least. One of those was that we had the highest number of New Zealanders leaving the country in nearly 4 years. It's not big, but it's clearly showing through as a trend. And also starting to see people head back towards Australia. Now, one of the features of our big migration gains of the past few years have been a lot of Kiwis coming home.
Yeah.
They were finding that Australia, of course, just wasn't the land of milk and honey. The resources sector in particular took a real beating after the slumping commodity prices, and also the tightening screw by Australian authorities on New Zealanders for what they could actually get for their taxes. That also sent many people back here looking for better economic times, which they were finding. So perhaps just a few straws in the wind that perhaps we're now seeing the tide starting to turn. Early days, but from that point of view, something to be watched.
Right. If the tide's turning, there is one researcher, I think, Giles, that you're going to tell us about who thinks that figures are understated. Is that right?
Indeed, it's the economics consultancy Infometrics. Now, they've been crunching the numbers, going back through them, and they've found that generally there's somewhere between 4,000 and 8,000 people a year. They come here on tourist visas, so that's up to about 3 months, and then they decide that, in fact, they quite...
Well, Giles was here on a tourist visa by the sound of things because he's just disappeared. I don't quite know what happened. Then he just dropped out. Yep, the line's just dropped out of Wellington. Giles was just going to say that there's quite a large number of people come here on tourist visas and then just quietly stay. They like the place and they stay. We'll try and go back to it. In fact, I think we've got him. Giles, are you back?
Well, I never left.
No, that's right. No, you just kept quiet. You were magnificent. You were Ciceronian in your oratory and you didn't even know you dropped out. But you were just saying that, 5,000 or 6,000 people arrive here on tourist visas and then just quietly sneak under the radar, do they?
Well, sneak might not be a too kind a word, but you would just say that they change their status from being tourists to becoming migrants or longer-term settlers. And that, in fact, could mean that our migration gains of the past few years have actually been closer towards 80,000 rather than 70,000. And just imagine, we wonder why we have so much strain on houses and infrastructure and other resources. Well, in fact, there's this sort of unaccounted for group who perhaps have just been flying, as you say, under the radar. It's something that, in fact, the planners have to be aware of, and perhaps we should just up the estimates just a little bit. But we'll wait and see how these numbers start to playing out with the changing in the tide, perhaps.
Yep. What happened on the markets today, Giles? Monday?
A pretty quiet start to the market this week, John. Top 50 index, that's shares down 6 points, 7868. That's still around record territory, not very far from it. New Zealand dollar also 73.15 US cents and 92.3 Australian. And hopefully we'll be with you all the time tomorrow.
Thanks, Giles. Giles Beckford, our business editor, beaming in live and then not from Wellington.